We do.
We do.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Hey, let's stand as we pray, and then also we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we just come before you today knowing that you care about meetings like this when we talk about things that concern your creation. And we thank you for this county. We know that an election is coming up next Tuesday, and we pray for that election. We pray for those that will be voted in. And God, even the ones that we might not vote for that will get voted in, we just pray we can support them in this endeavor in our county. And so be with these commissioners tonight as they are with the task at hand, and may you guide us in everything we do. And we do this all in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Thank you.
We'll call the June 1st, 2026 meeting of the Burleigh County Commission to order. First item is roll call of members.
Commissioner Bakken.
Here.
Commissioner Schwab.
Here.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Here. The next is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, I'd like you to note there's an addition under 10C, Apple Meadows, that was handed out by staff right ahead of the meeting. So I'd like to add that. It's just a kind of an extension of the existing request that's in the packet originally. Any other changes or additions? I know Commissioner Bakken wants to go through some information under other business.
Yes, sir. I just want to add on other business, we've got our city-county meeting coming up this week, and just some consensus items that I want to get put on. They've been on the agenda before on that meeting, but as the city's getting into budget time, and we are as well, they just want confirmation.
Okay.
So,
All right, we'll talk about that under other business. Commissioners, any other changes or additions, subtractions? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next is consideration of the May 18th, 2026 meeting minutes and bills. Who had a chance to review the bills?
Chair, I had an opportunity to review the bills this afternoon, and everything looks good, and they are approved, so move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the bills. Does that include the meeting minutes in the motion?
I didn't see anything in the minutes. If anybody else has anything, if not, then I'll include that in the motion to approve the minutes as well.
I'll amend my second.
Okay. Motion to approve the meeting minutes and bills. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next is public comment, restricted to Burleigh County residents and landowners. Anybody wish to speak under public comment?
Mr. Chairman, we've lost television, whether that makes any difference or not.
It doesn't make any difference to me.
By the way, it is on Dakota Media Access, just the televisions here are not working.
Okay. So we're on TV without seeing ourselves?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
That
State your name
always
for the
makes me
record.
nervous when I have this. Everybody, I'm Terry Efforts. I'm the Executive Director of Tech ND. I wanted to just stand up during public comment. There's some copies of a handout that I have here. I'll also leave some on the table for anybody else in the room that wants to see it. All of us at Tech ND want to make sure that when political subdivisions make decisions, you have the correct facts in front of you. And today specifically, I saw that there was a entry on the agenda about a moratorium on data centers. So I just want to talk to you for a few minutes about that. Of course, we know in North Dakota, every industry that comes into our area has challenges. And it's our job as responsible citizens and your job as elected officials to make sure that you have a proper framework so that...
Hang on a minute. Do you think it's more appropriate to do a presentation on that during the agenda item?
If you'd allow that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your consideration. We certainly, as I believe it's part of the policy to have public comment for things that are not going to be discussed. Anybody else want the public comment? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Bittner. I'd just like to thank Engineer Dan for what you guys did today on 66th Street and your road crew, especially Joe Legacy and Jason Kramer, that was in the motor grader. They did one hell of a job putting that gravel down on the north end of 66th Street from 71st to Rocky Road. And I just want to thank you guys for that. It really needed it. That's all I got.
Mr. Chairman,
Thanks, Commissioner Woodcock.
I think you mentioned last meeting when I wasn't here that I hung up on you. Is that correct?
Yes, you did.
You called, I want to put my side in before we get too far, but you called me on a weekday night, it doesn't make any difference, 9:30, that doesn't have anything to do with it. But you immediately got on your high horse and your voice raised and the conversation got one-sided, and I don't want to say bitter, but it was pretty close, and that's why I hung up on you. I don't have to take that. I don't think any of the other commissioners have to either. If you're civil and you're reasonable, I'm always willing to listen and adjust accordingly. But that's the reason I hung up on you. So
Okay.
Well, thanks for that clarification.
Can I add something, Chairman?
You go ahead.
Last meeting, you walked out of Applebee's. When this meeting, you weren't even here, and you walked right out of Applebee's. I seen
Yes.
you walk out of there.
yes, I was not here because it was my wife's, I shouldn't say 80-something rather birthday, and there was a big party, and she'll kill me for this, but there was a birthday party at 5 o'clock at Applebee's, and so I chose to miss the first meeting I missed in several years, and so I went to that party. So
Do you get part of my tax dollars for sitting there?
I would think probably you paid a nickel or a dime, maybe
Really?
something like that. Yeah,
Just a nickel. Out
Pardon
of
me?
$3,500.
Gentlemen,
we're not going to
Thank
argue
you.
about this. That's my reasoning. so.
gentlemen, that's good enough. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak under public comment?
Commissioner Bittner and, or Chair Bittner and Commissioners, I just have one question, and I asked this at the last meeting, and I haven't heard anything. I am still waiting to get some clarification on what ruling, where it's at, of why the OHVs can't be banned within, 5 miles of the city. And it's not only me, it's others in the public that are wanting answers, and it's been asked multiple times, and we haven't received an answer yet. I'm still waiting for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll look into that and see what I can find out for you. Anybody else? Welcome. State your name for the record.
Yes, can we give comments about the data centers?
I
Or is
would
that- we have
prefer
to
that
wait?
data center under data center agenda item.
Okay, I didn't know if there was
Yeah,
public
it's-
comment then or not.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, do you want public comment on the data center at that time?
Under that agenda item, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll
you
wait
bet.
till then.
Okay. Anybody else? Once, twice, 3 times. I'm going to close the public comment period, move into the consent agenda. Commissioners, on the consent agenda, you got abatements, special event permits, and liquor licenses. And I would like to add that I did speak with Sheriff Levin about one that was kind of in the works but fell through the cracks. And in the event that does get submitted, it appears that unless there's additional information, Sheriff?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, according to him, it wasn't his mistake. It was the vendor he was working with, so he's trying to salvage this. I did tell him to contact the auditor in the morning,
Okay,
so we'll push it through.
okay. Okay, so if that gets done, then we'll look at having, we'll probably call a special meeting in order to have at least a phone call or a Zoom or something on that particular permit. So we'll go with the consent agenda as it stands.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Number 7, Kelsey Deckard, Extension Agent, update of programming and introduction of new ag and natural resource agent. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you. Welcome. Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman Bittner. Just here tonight to provide a little bit of a programming update and
Thank you.
introduce our new ag agent here in a minute and stuff. You guys all receive our county narrative, quarterly narrative, I should say, but just kind of giving you some highlights from the last quarter of what the agents and our staff has been up to. And so I'm not going to go through any of that. You guys can take the time to read that if you would like. Just some upcoming program to make you guys aware. In the month of June, we do have a cooking camp that's going on. We also are hosting a youth farm safety camp. The new ag agent and myself actually are up working in the Wilton Senior Center with a new program up there called Growing with Burleigh County Extension. And then right at the beginning of July, we will have our achievement days, and that is July 6th through the 10th. And so I'm also here this evening to ask for approval to close our office to the public during that week of achievement days. So I've been here the last couple years asking for that, and it's all hands on deck, and it's a full day, full week actually. And so if I could get that approval tonight, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, how about if we address that right now?
So as far as when you're out of the office, if something arises, somebody needs to get a hold of you, what's the process for that?
Yeah, so we have where like our voicemail is set up to hit emails as well. And so like periodically we, like last year and the years before, we do check that when given. A lot of times we're able to, I'll be honest, like people are able to leave a message directly with the agent they're getting a hold of.
Perfect.
So we just, it's a delay in response, but it's an annual event.
Still
So-
accessible. So with that, I would move to approve the closure for the event.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the requested closure. Any further discussion? Do you have anything, Commissioner?
Never know, it might rain.
Let's pray for that.
Maybe this will force it to rain.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. Two last things before I turn it over to Seth here is we did have an admin who left and we did rehire, and she just started last Tuesday. So hitting the ground running with that and stuff. But here tonight, I really want to introduce Seth, our new ag and natural resource agent. So I will have Seth give a little introduction of himself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Seth Beckler. As Kelsey mentioned, I'm the new Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent for NDSU Extension, Burleigh County. Graduated NDSU in 2020, moved back home to Burleigh County on my family ranch, where I am the 5th generation, where me and my girlfriend are currently raising cattle. I started with NDSU Extension on April 20th. Kind of hit the ground running. I've hosted a pesticide training already, getting involved with programs with Kelsey and doing weekly crop and drought monitoring. Prior to employment at NDSU Extension, I worked for Burleigh County Soil Conservation, so I kind of have a history of agriculture, and when the job opened up, I felt like it would be a good start to the next chapter of my life, and happy to continue to support and work for the county that I live in. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. If not, that will conclude my report.
Hey, Commissioner Bakken.
Seth, have you had an opportunity to meet with Darren Johnson, our weed officer, yet?
I have, yes.
Okay, good.
He came into the office and introduced himself, and we had good conversation.
I look forward to that relationship growing. Thank you.
Commissioner Bakken. I mean, Commissioner Schwab.
have the last person in that office had a license for spraying and to sell Tordon. Do you?
I have a commercial pesticide license, so that I can spray and I can provide training for pesticide application, but we do not sell any.
No, because when our former weed officer resigned, I had to take all these calls for 9 months, and I could not sell Tordon. In other words, okay to sale. So you would be in the same position if Darren is out of town. Are you able to do that?
I cannot sell.
You don't sell it. You sign off on it for the county. You don't collect any money.
I would have to talk to
To
the
Darren
higher
about
up at
that.
ASU.
Talk to Darren about that.
Okay,
Because that was the only way I could get that out.
okay. Yeah, I'd have to, I'll look into that.
Yeah. The other stuff isn't restricted, but the Tordon is.
Right.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else? Okay, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelsey, you have anything else? Okay, thank you. Item number 8, Ben Gehrig, we've got a consideration of a zoning text amendment to prohibit new data centers and consideration of an ordinance to prohibit and remove flock safety cameras. And of course, we're going to give the public an opportunity to weigh in on this. Are you Ben?
Yes, I am. I'm Ben
Okay.
Gehrig.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mitch, did you bring any additional zoning information or anything like that? Commissioner Woodcock said you were going to. Thank you.
Zoning
Was it-
information
Yeah, was it with the ordinance, the existing ordinance or anything like that?
on,
Data centers?
I have the original ordinance that we've signed and approved.
Okay, so if there's any questions, you
If
have
there's
that
any
with-
questions, yeah.
Okay. thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, I was just mentioning the fact that he
Commissioner.
would be here to represent us, because I know some of this we've already handled, and he was here to.
Sure. Okay, just clarifying that he's available to do that.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Bittner. My name is Ben Gehrig. I'm a Burleigh County resident, and I live in Bismarck. I want to first start by recognizing your service to our community and the work you do. As we've seen recently, you often have very difficult decisions to make, and that is not lost on me. So thank you for your public service, taking the time to consider this item on the agenda and allowing me to speak on it. For the record, I am here as a private citizen giving opinions that are on my own, and I would like to say that I'm not a Luddite, I'm not an anti-tech extremist, and neither am I anti-progress. I'm an IT professional, and like many in this field, I'm terrified to see the direction this technology is headed. As many of us have seen in the news lately, data centers are proliferating across the nation and around the world. I can understand the argument that data centers are needed to process and store the ever-increasing volume of data. But I question for what purpose is all this data needed, and why is it happening all so fast, many times behind closed doors without public input? And why do we need so many? So I'm here tonight to make the case for why data centers should be prohibited from being built here in Burleigh County. I don't believe this issue is partisan nor political. Data centers threaten the livelihood of residents in our county and the counties that they exist in, whether you're left-leaning, right-leaning, or in the middle. This is about our future, and Burleigh County is beautiful. There are many hidden gems in our area, and one of which is under threat, Buckstop Junction. An out-of-state company Orem Capital Ventures wants to enter our community and take advantage of our spacious agricultural land and resources for profit. Why not instead allow local farmers to farm that land, as the Coleman family did in recent years? People say,
Sir,
sir?
I have to inform you, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to. We took action. There was somebody that came before the county commission quite some time ago requesting whether the county would be interested in selling some land for that, and it was unanimously denied. So I'm not sure where you've heard a rumor or why you think that there's a data center going in on county land at that location. That is simply not the case, okay?
Okay, well,
That's off the table. There is no.
Sure. Well, I spoke with the county zoning and board commission, or planning and zoning commission, and the person I spoke to said that the project was being studied. It just hadn't been approved yet. So
That's wrong. I don't know who you spoke to.
Sure. So
because I also sit on that board.
Okay.
And I'm sure our planning director was at that meeting as well. There is zero plan there.
Okay.
Has anybody heard anything other than that? I'm here to tell you that is not anything more than a rumor, sir.
Okay. Well, then I apologize for that, but could I continue to
Yeah, you
still
sure can.
make the point?
I just want to clarify that that's not going to
Sure.
happen.
So to continue on to the purpose of this consideration, as Burleigh County as a whole, people say we have an abundance of resources here, plenty of water, plenty of land, low utility bills, and my response to that is yes, we do. And that's what makes this such a great community in which to live. So if there were to be a data center put somewhere in Burleigh County, I think it would be a mistake to introduce such a massive resource hog into our community that would drive prices up. So, but recently, we've seen an uproar in Box Elder County, Utah, due to 3 commissioners approving the project with getting a massive amount of pushback from their local community. And I think there were genuine concerns voiced by the residents of that community, and that was another reason why I thought it should be brought up in a commission meeting to be considered, so that doesn't happen here, so we can get ahead of that in the event that there would be a plan to put a data center in Burleigh County. But I would like to continue that many community leaders make hasty decisions made by and fall for empty promises made by data center developers, and some of which promises are made are that they'll bring jobs, tax revenue, make the community a hub for more businesses to come in and develop it out. But what we see recently across the country is that a lot of times these entities overpromise and underdeliver, and then the communities are stuck with the consequences of a decision that was rushed and where locals were kept in the dark. So, but I would like to note that last week, Governor Armstrong was interviewed on KFYR, and he said, quote, 1, make sure you're talking to the locals because you need support locally. And 2, don't you dare raise consumers' rates, not now, not 6 weeks from now, not 6 months from now. Because not only are you causing yourself problems, you're causing the opportunity cost to everything else, end quote. And he also mentioned getting public input to build up a framework for data centers based on resource use, and made a point to remind local officials to not enter into non-disclosure agreements with these developers, as we saw in Fargo between City Administrator Michael Redlinger and Applied Digital. And also recently, we saw in Williston that there was a settlement between Atlas Power Data Center and the local residents who sued asking for damages for the noise. And they won that settlement. And it's just a clear pattern we see going across the nation where nobody wants to live next to a data center. And even when they try and mitigate the concerns, the locals are still very unhappy. And some of these concerns are diesel fumes, light pollution, a constant, relentless drone of sound and infrasound. So I would just like to make a point that I don't know very many people that would like to live next to a data center. I certainly wouldn't. And I would invite you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, to raise your hand if you would voluntarily move to and live next to a data center. Thank you for your feedback. So if you commissioners and our community leaders wouldn't want to live next to a data center, I think it's fair to see that it would be unfair for local residents to have to live next to one. And
I should clarify, I'm just not willing to move.
Oh.
Not whether I'm willing to move next to one. I'm just not going to move. I think I'm going to die where I live. So
sure.
that's all.
Thank you for your honesty, Chairman Bittner. But I believe a prohibition on data center development would be what's best for the living standard of our community. And I'll wrap up here. I submit to you that the harm that comes from data center greatly outweighs the alleged benefits. If other communities and counties think otherwise, then they do so. They allow these facilities to enter at their own risk. And I hope that I've illustrated and that upon reflection, we see that our quality of life here in Burleigh County would be diminished if we did allow a data center to come in. And Governor Armstrong also mentioned that this topic will be considered in the next legislative session. So I think if we act now and consider or even go so far as to enact a prohibition here in Burleigh County, we will have a better protection if the state legislature would go and make lax regulations for them. So I think it's good to get ahead of that and protect our community, protect our water, our land, our electricity. And so I just ask that you consider these concerns and that remember that this is our home, this is where we live. I certainly wouldn't want to live next to a data center. And I've talked to many people in the past week about it, and none of them would want to either. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to make my case, and I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Munson?
So Ben, when you were visiting with Planning and Zoning, did you get a copy of the most recently passed ordinance for data centers?
No, Commissioner Munson,
Okay.
I did not.
So this commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Burleigh County Commission, a year and a half ago, spent almost a year creating an ordinance. I would think you should look at that, read it, make sure you know it, because I think we've done our job very well as the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Burleigh County Commission to make sure a lot of the concerns you just raised are covered.
Thank you, Commissioner Munson.
Okay, we're going to open it up to anybody else that wants to speak on that subject.
Hi again, everybody. Terry Efforts. You've got a copy of my materials. If you walked in late and you're in the public, there's also some copies sitting up here, and my email address and my phone number is on there if you guys want to give me a ring. I'm with TechND. We are starting an infrastructure education coalition, and there's some things I just want to put on the record about data centers in North Dakota, and where I agree with Ben on a few things. I will say that we've seen the same pattern play out in a lot of different places in the U.S. Utah was specifically mentioned, and the difference of a bad situation and a good situation is whether or not local governments actually have a factual framework in place before a developer arrives, and whether they're building in the middle of a crisis and things of that nature. So Burleigh County went the right route, and they went and they put this ordinance into effect. We actually, at TechND, between ourselves, planners from around the state, some industry as well, had a model ordinance task force that we convened. We used part of your guys' code for that as well. So good job. Thank you. You made it easier on all of us. I also agree with Ben and the comments that he highlighted from Governor Armstrong. And in addition to appearing on KFYR, he also had a nice blurb, which not the most attractive word, but he had a nice blurb in the Economic Development Guide where he went through the same analysis, and he says, don't you come in here if you're going to be raising the rates of our consumers. We learned a lot from the situation up in Williston, where we had an investor-owned utility and a co-op trying to work in the same area on the seam of the provider, and things didn't work out right. But that's not the case everywhere, and we've learned a lot from it. Really, the job of anybody that is any community considering a data center has to be, look at the challenges. What's going to happen to the roads? Are we going to have a land use agreement? What's going to happen to, is there going to be light pollution? You have to look at those challenges. And then you have to look at the benefits to your community. And you have to consider how the technology actually works. And underneath that entire net benefit analysis that you're going to run, you also have to consider the fact that there's property rights on both sides of this issue. Yes, you have property rights, but so does your neighbor who finally is ready to sell his land. And so making sure that a strong framework in place is the most important thing that we can do as a community to make sure that we're all protected on both sides. You know, we've heard that narrative that data centers drive up the electric rates. You know, in some places that could be true. We saw it. We saw a bad situation. We've learned from that. In Ellendale, since Applied started, they've returned $38 million back to consumers and the ratepayers there. So it doesn't always have to be that way. They also end up paying for the upgrades to the system, which can benefit the rest of the customers that are on there. You know, we have to just look at these things honestly. Are the jobs sometimes inflated when you say, oh, it's going to bring so many jobs? Well, it's your duty as an elected official to look at that and say, yeah, some of these are permanent jobs and some of these are temporary construction jobs because they're huge projects. In some of the larger data centers, there's 120 permanent employees per building. And bringing in 120 or 240 new residents into a North Dakota community is not insignificant. So I just want to put out there that we've got some factual information. I like to hear both sides, and then let's just run an analysis on both the pros and the cons, because the only way that we all move forward together is to make sure that we've actually got a protection in place. And it's just important to know that a moratorium isn't really a decision. It's just a deferral that creates legal exposure. Well, we don't really solve anything. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? I don't see any.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak on this? Welcome. State your name for the record, please.
Rachel Heidel. Commissioners, I'm here to register my opposition to data centers. I don't know what the rush is and why do we need so many. We've already got over 4,000 in the United States, all over this country. And I'm just going to give some examples of some that have already been built. There's one data center, and this is provided by Newsmax. This is not just a wild place to get this information. One data center in Texas called Project Matador is as big as 15 Disneylands and uses as much electricity as the whole state of Colorado requires in a year. It also uses over 1 billion gallons of water a year. Another data center under construction in Utah is going to require twice as much electricity as the whole state of Utah uses annually. There's the QTS data center in Fayette County, Georgia, 6 million square feet in size. In 1 year, they have used 70 million gallons of water, which is 100 times what the public was told they were going to use. And they pay for their water not at the rate that the public residents pay, but at a preferential rate. Also, unknown to the county was that they tapped into a residential water main and siphoned off 29 million gallons of water. So these are just a few of those things that are happening across this country. And I can imagine there's many more with the 4,000 data centers already going on where the public is not being told the truth. They're not living up to what they're saying. And what about total noise? Total noise from these data centers is what happens from EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, and ELF, extremely low frequencies, noise that you're not necessarily aware of, but can have a very negative impact upon people and livestock and so forth. So I think we better think long and hard in Burleigh County before we allow this activity to go on in our county. And what's the benefits to us as residents of Burleigh County? There will be some temporary jobs in constructing it and a few skeletal people left to operate it. What benefit do we get out of it? They take our electricity, they take our water, they create noise pollution, all these kinds of things that affect us here. And so I just ask you to consider all these facts when you're making your decision. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dustin Geverlow, a Burleigh County resident, and I've been working on this issue via my organization, North Dakota Watchdog Network, for some time. Last week, I was invited down to a meeting in Linton where the locals there are very concerned about this. This is going to be the next big fight nationally, but based on what you've heard so far, I think it's very important that you call a timeout and let the public know what Burleigh County has already done on this issue, maybe word for word, reading it out, and then make sure that it is posted on the website so that people and citizens understand what the county has already done on this, so that you don't have people thinking that you aren't doing something on it. One thing that has been made very clear is that a one-size-fits-all solution, even for those who are opposed to data centers, is not going to work, because there are small data centers that are owned by North Dakotans, owned by people in Bismarck, and the money that they are making off of these things is getting funneled into the local economy. So I would urge you to consider what people have to say, make sure that they understand what is already in your ordinances, and keep in mind that there is not a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach to this issue, that you do need to keep your options open so that you can address things case by case. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Commissioner Bachman?
You know, one of the things too, Dustin, is it's a one-size-fits-all with the term data center, because there's crypto mining and so many other things that play into this. And I know so many individuals in the community that already are doing the crypto mining side of things. And it's not water, they're using gel and other cooling methods. So I think the term's a little erroneous as well. So I would really ask people to do their homework, because there's a big difference in a wide spectrum when you're talking from over here to over here when you lump everything under the term data center.
Yes, absolutely. The people at the top, at the national level, who are going to benefit the most from the data centers are their own worst enemies when it comes to public relations. Won't name names, but we all know who they are, out on TV making quotes that sound pretty bad, and they are actually probably the biggest thing that is inspiring folks to be very upset. The other thing is that there's a lot of ironically, there's a lot of AI-generated misinformation on this issue, And people are not understanding that. There are certain websites that are designed to inflame the situation that are not focused on the facts. And I'm a critic of data centers in general, but if you don't have your facts straight, you're not going to win. So with that, I will sit down.
All right. Thanks, Dustin. Anybody else? Welcome, Gil.
Hi, I'm Galen Becker, and a few things I'd just like to mention, and that to have promises in writing. And whatever that is, if there's violations, what the penalties are. If you consider having those up front. If it's a closed water system and it's not completely closed water system, what's going to be the penalty per gallon of water? And have it specified who's going to take care of all costs associated, plus the penalty. Okay, so we know what we're getting into. If electric costs are raised for electricity and infrastructure costs, it should be spelled out who's going to pay for them. And who's going to be paying for the disassembly of the data center after it's obsolete no longer, and return the soil to its original form. And will they be sales tax exempt, like I've heard in some situations, or will they not be? Whatever you can think of, have those things in writing spelled out so you can make a good decision. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Galen? I don't see any. Thanks, Galen.
Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Donovan Bowler, longtime Burleigh County resident. Be honest, full disclosure, I was unaware that there's already an ordinance in place dealing somewhat with these data centers, so I don't know what that consists of or what that says. And part of what I have here is ignorance on my part of not knowing where we are today. I just found out about this meeting tonight, this afternoon, so short notice. So bear with me here. I'm here to strongly urge the commission to strongly consider the zoning text amendment to prohibit new data centers in the county. While we recognize the economic value of technology, standalone data centers are heavy industrial operations that cause irreversible harm to nearby neighborhoods. I ask you to support this amendment for two critical reasons. First, we must protect our residents from severe 24/7 noise pollution. Data centers require massive industrial-grade cooling towers and exhaust fans that run constantly. This is not standard commercial sound. It is a relentless, low-frequency hum that vibrates through the walls and can be heard for miles. It disrupts sleep, ruins the enjoyment of outdoor residential spaces, and cannot be mitigated by standard property setbacks. Furthermore, periodic testing of their massive diesel backup generators create an overwhelming roar and release localized emissions. Because North Dakota has no state-level environmental review process for data center noise, your local zoning text is our only line of defense. Second, data centers place a severe economic and community strain on Burleigh County while offering almost no long-term benefits. During construction, residents face years of heavy truck traffic, dust, and torn-up roads. But once complete, these massive, windowless concrete fortresses operate with minimal staff, often requiring fewer than 30 permanent jobs. They can occupy hundreds of acres of land without generating the local consumer foot traffic or employment that a standard business or housing development would. Instead, they threaten nearby property values. Homes facing an industrial perimeter of high-security barbed wire fencing and constant hum face steep depreciation of their property values. Furthermore, these facilities consume massive amounts of local electricity and water, threatening to strain our public infrastructure and will trigger utility rate hikes for everyday citizens. We frequently hear about the massive tax revenues and economic investment that data centers bring to a county. We do not dispute Burleigh County needs a strong tax base. However, the tax revenue should never come at the expense of public health, residential property values, or our quiet peace. The reality is that the financial benefits of a data center do not stay in the immediate neighborhood, but the damages do. If a data center is built next to our homes, the broader county might see a boost in its treasury, but the immediate residents face severe property depreciation, unlivable 24/7 noise pollution, and ruined landscape. Furthermore, North Dakota offers substantial tax level exemptions for large technology infrastructure, meaning that the actual long-term tax payout to our local schools and roads may be far lower than the developer's promise, while permanent burden on our water and power infrastructure remains exceptionally high. No amount of tax revenue is worth sacrificing the quality of life of the citizens who already live, work, and pay taxes here. Passing this type of tax amendment creates a clear, permanent standard that protects our property values, our quiet peace, our county infrastructure. For the health and safety and the welfare of our community, please vote yes on this text amendment to ban data centers in our county. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions that. I might also add that a second location that was identified for this data center, should the county land fall through, was the state school section straight north of that, where WAPA has their power center. So that's another, I don't know where that's at this point, but that was identified as a secondary location.
You know,
There is no county
There's-
land on the table.
yeah, the Burleigh County is no part of this. Honestly, folks, we went through this whole thing. We developed an entire ordinance
That's
about.
why we did it last
That's
year.
why, yeah, honestly, we think that we're ahead of the game here. I'm not sure how nobody knows about that, or not everybody knows about it, but we think we're ahead of that game. There is no data center going on county land, I can guarantee you that.
And
There's no support at this board.
My point, sir, was that,
And
okay,
now
the
we-
county land's off the table, the state land.
Okay,
that's
let
to
me,
the north.
let me address that one for you, because
Thank you.
Commissioner Munson brought that up to me earlier. That is state land inside city limits and completely out of control of Burleigh County. I'm sorry to say that, because we'd love to have jurisdiction and control that for you, but it's out of our control. So if something were to happen there, it's not this board that has anything whatsoever to do with it, sir. Commissioner, do you have anything? Okay. I just wanted to be clear about that.
And I
We have
appreciate that. Thank
No
you.
control, it's like that bus is, somebody else is driving that bus.
Yes, sir, I get it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Bakken.
And just, it'll probably be tomorrow, but for future reference, just so anybody wants to take a look at the ordinance, we are gonna post it up at the top of the page, so just like we do with fire warnings and everything else, just so everybody can go back and look at it, because it is in the full ordinances in that package if you go in and look at it, but just so it highlights, so this is a point of, a topic point at the moment. We'll put that on the website just so everybody has operational awareness of what that ordinance that we crafted last year looks like.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Bakken, but it's already on the website. It is part of the zoning
But it's in
ordinances.
full, the package.
And we only have room for so many things on the top of the page, so I'm sure
We'll
Mary
get a
will
link to
put it wherever
Yeah.
it
We'll get a
wherever it
link to it,
fits.
but it'll be.
Right, so it'd be easy to access. Go
Good
ahead.
evening, gentlemen. I appreciate you guys taking time to hear people tonight. My concern with this whole issue is we keep hearing ban in Burleigh County. We want to ban OHVs, we want to ban wind towers, we want to ban data centers, we want to ban this, we want to ban that. As leaders and representation for the county folks, I think, we need to put a little bit more faith in you guys. But I want to say, when people keep hearing this ban word, it turns business and opportunity away because we look uninviting. You guys have done your due diligence. You have passed ordinance. You have gone ahead of this. I think you guys should get credit for that. And I appreciate that as a county resident. But I would urge you guys to maybe, instead of using these ban words, a moratorium is much different than a ban. That is a pause. It is time to give you guys time to come up with ordinances, which a lot of our smaller counties have. A lot of our smaller counties are behind you guys on the whole data center topic. But the reason I came tonight is I just want to make sure that we're not turning people away. If we have people that have ideas and they want to bring something into Burleigh County, we want to create an atmosphere where they can come to you guys and discuss that idea discuss it with the community, build that relationship. We don't want to put a closed sign up for Burleigh County because that will have economic impact. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Freeman. I've been a resident of Burleigh County for about 6 years now. As someone who has a master's degree and is pursuing a PhD in the field of AI, I understand that data centers are not something that are nice, they are required. However, with that being said, I think it's also important to take into consideration location, proximity, and overall benefit. As has been mentioned before, having these in close proximity to homes or other businesses ends up being more of a nuisance than what it's worth. Because once it's built, the amount of traffic that's going to be there is going to be minimal, so the economic impact on the local jobs and facilities nearby, the stores, they're not going to benefit much from it. They will see more of a detriment from the overall noise, as mentioned before. All those things are going to have that type of impact. I did just have a few questions, and some of it may be my ignorance of not catching some of the things here. For this particular data center, will there be any tax incentives offered to this business as part of that? I know that might have been answered, but I wanted to make sure.
No, we have not been considering anything like that. There is no request. There has been no talk of any sort about that.
Just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything on that.
Unless anybody had any, nobody that I'm aware of.
Okay, and that's what I thought. I just would rather have that clarification. When it comes to the environmental reviews that are going to be done as part of that project, when it comes to things like the impact of wildlife, will that also be assessed as part of that process, as data centers do have continual noise 24/7, and that could potentially have an impact on the wildlife in the near area?
I don't know if wildlife is part of the ordinance, but it may be.
Okay,
You'll be able to review that and come to your own conclusion.
Okay. Then the other question I have is when it comes to the infrastructure of the electricity that's going to be required for it. It's something that's always known. If those types of upgrades have to be made, what protections are going to be made in place to ensure that cost is solely on that organization and not being passed to the consumer in some, I don't want to say backdoor because that puts them in a bad light, but in some almost cynical way so they can phrase it that it makes it look like, hey, this is just normal cost of doing business.
Well, that's in a minute. That's something I am particularly interested in, and I have had conversations with, specifically with the manager of Capital Electric regarding that. And he forwarded me some information from Basin Electric, who they buy their power from. And they have assured me that the goal across the board with the power companies to do like what we've been talking about, to not have any of those costs impacting the current rate payers. Because I certainly don't want my rates going up to pay for some other business down the road, or regardless of what that business is. But having said that, I don't have any guarantees, and I'm not aware of anything that we can do through our ordinance structure that would basically assure that. I think there may be something in the ordinance. I'd have to review it myself because it's been over a year now. But, you know, we're all of the same opinion. I think that none of us want to share in the expense of data centers or AI centers or something.
Yeah, and I think that's why having that.
Yeah.
What kind of
it's legitimate. Don't get me wrong.
We're going to be
you wanted to add something, Commissioner Munson?
At least a statement. There is not a project in front of Burleigh County at this time.
Right.
So your questions haven't been asked of us.
That doesn't mean those questions shouldn't be at least thought of.
Correct. But for right now, there is not a project in front of Burleigh County Planning and Zoning or Burleigh County Commission to even consider these questions.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Jan Wangler, longtime resident of Burleigh County. I truly appreciate the fact that there are things already in place that you've put together over the last year and a half. I do have some questions on how any of that would have to do with the flock cameras, or if it does or does not. Both the data center and the flock cameras are really touchy subjects for a lot of people, and both of them seem to be things that kind of infringe on property rights and people's ability to have autonomy. And so I'm kind of looking to find out why these are both kind of grouped together, or maybe they aren't, just, they're both listed together, but maybe they aren't exactly tied together, but it kind of seems a little bit so with the way that it was presented. And also, I have a little bit of a observation that things that have been quote-unquote decided don't necessarily get enforced. We had issues with the Midwest Industrial Center infringing on residential, and there were lots of promises made, not necessarily by this board, but more so the city. And when there was additions to it, there were more promises made, and none of them were followed, but none of them were enforced, or none of the things that were done that infringed upon the people around the area were addressed by the city or any of them that had the jurisdiction to do so. So my fear, and my fear comes from experience, is that that could happen with something like this in Burleigh County, whether it is the flock cameras or it is the data centers. And I'm wondering what kind of teeth are, and it's probably been as long since I've reviewed that ordinance as what I'm hearing here, because it hasn't been top of awareness lately. But I'm kind of wondering what kind of teeth are going to be placed with any of these things should you decide to do a full-on prohibition rather than a moratorium or put controls in place. So if you have any answers to that, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, let's see how to start with that, Jan. First off, the data centers and the flock cameras are two separate issues. When I introduced the agenda item, I just kind of put 8A and B because he's on for both of them. We haven't talked about flock safety cameras yet. I haven't had a chance to talk to the sheriff, but I'm not aware of any of those in Burleigh County. Maybe in the city. I don't
Correct.
believe there's any in Burleigh County. And
Well,
frankly,
there's not a way to get out of the city of Bismarck without being viewed, period. So
I have no control over that, Jen.
No,
You know
I realize that.
And you know
So-
as well as
so
I do the
for you
issues
to
out
say
there.
that
You
you-
know as well as I do out at Midwest there. That was city jurisdiction, and you're right about
100%.
that. So Burleigh County wasn't able, as much as it pained us and pained me personally, we weren't able to do anything to assist with that outside of talking with them. Now, to give them credit, that extraterritorial jurisdiction on a lot of those existing areas has been turned over to the county, and I can assure you that the county has more bite in its bark than the city does outside city limits.
And I'm not assuming that you're going to all of a sudden put a bazillion flock cameras out in the county. That's
I don't
not
see
my
that.
insinuation whatsoever.
No.
But if you would be in favor of doing a prohibition, I don't think you'd meet a lot of resistance, because we have already lost that autonomy and individuality.
You know, we were talking ahead of the meeting just a little bit, me and Commissioner Munson, that what about ring cameras? What about business cameras? What about, you know, he mentioned there was one murderer guy that we wouldn't have necessarily caught had it not been for some cameras that caught him. You know, I own a fair amount of surveillance cameras myself, and we use them all the time. Unfortunately, it seems to me in this day and age, there is no privacy anymore. If you're out on a public street and you're outside of your own home, I don't think there's an expectation of privacy anymore. I think it's gone. Just
How
like
sad.
it is sad, but I think it's gone. Because, you know, everybody has had to utilize cameras because of the, dare I say, criminals of the world, right? And so that's a separate issue. But with regards to the data centers, I'd strongly recommend that you review the existing ordinance because it is relatively new. And I'd certainly be willing to hear if you have any concerns or suggestions for any changes, and we can address that then.
Can you explain to me what jurisdictions happen with the city and the state land And you said that you have no say in that,
Right.
that
That's
area where
actually,
the forest is?
that's actually inside the city limits.
Correct. But it's state-owned property at this point, is it not?
Does nothing to us. That's entirely between the state and the city. And I think it'd be a pretty hard sell. They can't just walk in and buy state land. You know, that's
I
state
guess that's
school
not
land.
even my question. I'm just wondering if you are aware that it is truly owned by the state, but it's within city limits. Is that correct?
That is correct. I
Thank you.
have verification on that because we had some conversation about a different subject related to that land. It had nothing to do with the data center. But
So if that land was owned by the city and the county decided to do a prohibition, would it affect the city-owned land?
no.
So
No.
then Burleigh County does not necessarily have full jurisdiction over all of Burleigh County, just rural?
Right.
Burleigh
It's not
County?
a question of not necessarily. Burleigh County has zero jurisdiction.
I'm
out-
just,
out in the
I'm trying
city.
to help all of us understand a little bit better
Okay.
where we are.
Yeah, well, I
so
appreciate the
that-
question because
yeah.
Burleigh County has zero jurisdiction within the cities or the extraterritorial area of a city, not just necessarily Bismarck. Any towns, you know, they all have their own based on population and such. Commissioner Bakken?
And school lands, they're held with certain protections as per the century
trust,
code.
yes.
So that not in our jurisdiction as well, so,
That is school land.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
I
trust
mean,
land.
they can't just walk in and make the offer, make the state an offer to buy
Yeah.
that. There's a whole set of rules and laws that relate to that, and it's, again, out of our wheelhouse. We don't-
And one hopefully tiny last question. The current ordinance, and I personally will review it for my own satisfaction, is it a moratorium or a prohibition?
No, it's
Or
neither.
It's an ordinance.
It's
Just an ordinance on
Either
what
one.
has to take place should that come before the county?
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay. Thank you for your information.
You're welcome, Jan. Thank you.
Commissioners, Chairman Bittner, my name is Andy Buntrock. I represent Basin Electric Power Cooperative. And the reason I'm up here tonight is that Basin Electric was brought up, and I thought maybe I would just shed a little bit more light on our large load commercial program. And essentially what had happened is within the last couple of years, we've been seeing tremendous amounts of load growth within our membership. We serve 9 states, 3 million members. It just so happens that headquarters is here in Bismarck, North Dakota. And so essentially what the board decided to do was put forth this program that Chairman Bittner had mentioned, and it's called the Large Load Commercial Program. And the concern is that our existing generation and transmission, for instance, our existing generators are at about $800. The new stuff is at about $3,000. So the more the new stuff you add on, just like a car fleet, obviously the higher the cost. And so what the board wanted to do, working with our members, is they established this program. And what it does is it isolates that cost to the data center. So it allows the member, let's say, Capital Electric or somebody like that, to serve this member. But what it'll do is if there is upgrades needed for generation, which most of the time there is, or transmission, it pushes those costs down on the requester, or in this instance, who would be data center. And the reason this was done is back even 5 years ago, a large request was 2 to 3 megawatts. That was a large request. Now we're getting requests for 300, 500, 1,000, 1,500 megawatts. Bismarck-Mandan alone is about 250 megawatts, just to give you an idea. And so I'm really proud of what the cooperative did as far as trying to isolate this. It would be no different than if you owned a section of land, the co-op line was 3 miles away, and you said, hey, I want power right here. They would say, well, we're not putting that on the backs of all of our other members. You're going to have to pay for the line in, and then we'll serve you. That's essentially what we're doing, but we're doing it on a much larger scale. And so that's at least what the cooperative has attempted to do, to try to isolate those costs from the members. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Commissioner Woodcock.
Is there such a thing as tours of one of these centers, like one by Williston or Ellendale? Because I don't know if any of you have ever been, I've never been to one. I know the pictures, I see all the information, but we don't know how big these are or what they do or how loud they are. Or we hear all the complaints, but we don't know for sure what we're talking about.
Right. That would probably be a better question for like Terry Efforts or somebody else. I'm essentially up here just talking about the rate side of things from the power perspective.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to do that, Commissioner Schwab.
Have you guys, I'm going to bring up the scenario back about 3 years ago, 4 years old. The gas lines down in Texas froze, and we were shuffling power from state to state, including North Dakota. And we were close to having brownouts too. So what happens if that power has to be sent down there again? Who gets cut? The citizens or the data centers?
So that's a great question, and the topic you're talking about is Winter Storm Uri. It was in 2021, February to be exact. And in that instance, it was the RTO, or the Regional Trade Organization, and we're in Southwest Power Pool. Sometimes you hear SPP. They're the ones that make the determination along with WAPA on who gets cut. And what they try to do is they try to roll that. So in that instance, I couldn't tell you that decision would be made. I can tell you, though, that one thing at least our cooperative believes in heavily is dispatchable generation. And so think coal, think natural gas, think things that turn on. And what we try to do is we try to line up our dispatchable generators, that we have enough ability to do that along with our members, so that we know that we have the machines that will run in effect. And then we can also bring in other non-dispatchable stuff like wind and solar if that happens to come around to rest those other machines.
Well, if there's this pool, who's all part of it that makes these decisions?
So anybody that gets power from the Southwest Power Pool area.
Are even out of state?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The
So
Southwest Power Pool.
my concern is, why in the world would we go and help this kind of a business if we're not guaranteed power, the citizens, and somebody else can make a decision to give us brownouts? That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And one thing about that is, and it happened with Summit, want it in writing. And if you don't see it in writing, I can't even support it.
Right, understood.
Okay.
Yeah, the best answer I have for you is that we try to balance that, keeping our coal units and our natural gas
You're going around
units.
the barn to kind of not answer the question.
Yeah.
The thing is, it should never happen.
Understood, and I
Because
agree.
the citizens were here first, and they're going to have the brownouts in their homes, keep the data centers going and Texas going and whatever. However, somebody else from out of state decides, no way.
Oh, that is a concern, but action at this table is probably not going to fix that.
Well, I certainly don't want to see citizens of Burleigh County in the middle of winter have their furnaces.
I agree 100%.
No power to run the fans, the blowers, the refrigerators. That is not going to happen if I have anything to say about it.
Any
now,
other
if they
questions
can
for Andy?
guarantee with stiff penalties, that's a different ballgame. But I don't see any effort. Period.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Andy? Okay.
All right,
Thanks, Andy.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening, Commissioners. Do I have to sign the sheet or
Should be one there.
I have a pen? My name is Michael Berg. I'm not a resident of Burleigh County, but I thought it was important to speak. I traveled here from Mercer County, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit of what we have going on. We are being proposed with a 2,000-acre hyperscale data center campus by Basin Electric and NextEra Energy. My family's been on the land for 117 years, and this center will be 500 yards from my house. So some things that you need to consider, and I appreciate the work you may have done into your ordinances, but if you're not 100% sure on any of that, I would strongly urge you to take another look at it, because I think there's people here that pointed out different types of data centers, and I agree with that. But we're talking about large scale, hyperscale, and that's what I'm here to tell you, what we're being faced with. And in Oliver County, 8 miles down the road, these companies are coming here from out of state, and they're not benefiting local communities, like Dustin mentioned. They're taking advantage of our resources. So I think you need to be mindful of who wants to come here, what companies they are, and how big they are. NextEra is a $190 billion company, and we're working with them. Some other things to consider, talked about the large load commercial program. That doesn't take into effect the existing infrastructure that's being built in place right now and has been in the past for these reasons. In Ellendale and Jamestown, the JetX transmission line is being built for grid reliability, but it essentially ties 2 data centers together, and that cost was being brought onto the ratepayers. LOS to Tandy line is being built this summer, tying 2 natural gas plants together for large load growth. So I think you need to be mindful of those projects. That's a 163-mile transmission line. Those costs will go onto the ratepayers. Anyway, I just wanted to make it a point that if you're not 100% certain on what you're dealing with or may not be dealing with, I urge you to take a look at it again, even if it's just reviewing it. As far as the state trust lands, I don't know what the jurisdiction is within Burleigh County or the city limits, but something to note, the State of North Dakota Trust Lands Board has given $247 million in data center development. So if you think that that's not an option for development, and what we're finding is these locations across the state in Mercer County and Oliver County and Ellendale, these shell companies are buying land directly adjacent to state trust lands. And so all these solar leases are adjacent to state trust lands. All of these data center locations in Mercer County, other land that's being bought in Oliver County, and land down by Ellendale is adjacent to state trust lands. And the State of North Dakota Trust Lands Board has invested their dollars in the success of the data center industry as a whole. So you may not have a project in front of you right now, and they may be true, but you will. So you need to be aware of things that will be happening. And I just wanted to share some of my experiences, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you about what that's been. My wife and I are expecting a child next month, in a month and 6 days. In the last 3 months, I've probably attended 80 meetings. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had 8 meetings between Monday and Wednesday, 72 hours between Mercer and Oliver County. So it's a big commitment. I spend more time attending meetings doing this stuff than I have farming. I'm a 32-year-old farmer. I used to work for Basin Electric. And I spend more time attending meetings, going to these events than I have with my own family or attending my own farm. So I'm not telling you guys you're not doing a good job, but it takes a lot of time. But don't get me wrong on that. But please do your homework. Thank you.
Hey, I got a question for you. Where's the approximate location of that one in Mercer County? Like from the gas plant, from the...
Highway 31, 2 miles south of Highway 200.
Highway 31.
And there's, I'll give you my number afterwards.
Your proximity to what town? Beulah?
It's between Hazen and Center.
Hazen and Center, okay.
That's the one we know of.
Okay.
There's other prospective locations we're finding out about.
Yeah, why don't you come up afterwards and give me your number? I'm just curious. All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the expected kid, too. I hope everything goes your way. Anybody else? Anybody else wish to speak? welcome.
Lanny Kenner, Burleigh County resident. Start with the School Lands Trust land that's in Wapa area. If our governor wants that thing made into a data center, it's going to happen because he controls that board, School Lands, University of School Lands Trust Board. I know it's nothing to do with you guys, but everybody's freaked out about these data centers because we've seen it. They're snuck into areas. Cass County, Dickey, Morton, Mercer, Oliver. The LSA, and I'm not saying you guys are lying at all, and I'm glad you got ordinance. I just haven't read it, but they all say there's nobody asking for permits, but they're out buying land, and it's going to happen. So that's why everybody's freaked out because it's happening all around us. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn.
Fair warning, huh? Fair warning?
Fair warning, yeah.
Well, like I mentioned probably more than once, feel free to review that ordinance. Yep. And, if you have issues with it, certainly you know how to get a hold of me. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. I think before we would take any additional action on anything prohibitive or whatnot, because I think the state's attorney can already tell me that we can't do that, because I think we already had that conversation year and a half ago. But before we would do anything, I think everybody would want to take a fresh look at the current zoning ordinance and see if there's any kind of need to review it or consider changes before we take any other action. Anybody have any other thoughts on that?
No, that's what I would recommend as well, so.
Okay. I think that would be a safe thing to say. Mitch, you're okay with that? Okay. Probably just, can you copy and paste that in an email and just send that chunk of the ordinance to all commissioners, please? All right, thank you. Make it easy to review. I guess with that, we would have Ben, if you want to continue with the consideration of ordinance to prohibit and remove flock safety cameras. But like I said, we don't have anything like that in Burleigh County and under our jurisdiction, right, Kelly? We have nothing. And so if it's just so you're aware, any use of that type of device is in the city of Bismarck and outside of our jurisdiction, regardless of what we did for ordinances. But go ahead.
That's correct, Chairman Bittner.
Okay, thanks.
Good evening again, Chairman Bittner and Commissioners.
Yep.
I just want to first apologize again for any misinformed opinion on the previous agenda item.
Quite all right. No problem at all.
That's my fault, and I take responsibility for that, and I apologize to anybody if I gave out incorrect information.
All good. Thank you.
I appreciate you willing to come in front of us and have the conversation.
Sure.
Right, and ultimately, that's my goal. As you can probably imagine, this is my first time doing something like this. I have no experience. This has just
You're
been
doing
me.
You're doing fine, trust me.
I don't have a team, so I'm just doing the best I can to look out for our community. So if nothing comes of a prohibition or a ban, as some might say, at the very least, I would like our community to have a robust debate and discussion about these topics ahead of time before we're faced with the relentless spread of these facilities or devices that are a hot topic in our country right now. So again, for the record, my name is Ben Gehrig, and I live in Bismarck. And I want to also thank you again for allowing me to speak on this topic of flock cameras. And thank you for your public service. Thank you for the work you've done and allowing me to speak. So on the topic of flock cameras, I understand, and as you correctly stated, Chairman Bittner, the cameras that do exist in Burleigh County are within Bismarck city limits, not in the county in a rural sense. And that's why I'm addressing this commission. I've also reached out, hopefully be able to get in touch with the city commission. But I'm here tonight to speak about our Fourth Amendment right as Americans and as a citizen. The Fourth Amendment says the right of people to be the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So Flock Safety is the company in question of this topic, and which I'll hereafter to refer to simply as Flock, calls its cameras automated license plate readers, or ALPRs. However, I believe this description is inaccurate because these devices are actually AI-powered surveillance cameras, and Chairman Bittner, you made the point earlier that what about Ring cameras and business cameras and such, and that's a fair point. They do have a few similarities, but my point tonight about is specifically Flock cameras and similar automated license plate readers where they're posted in general public areas to be positioned in a way where they're scanning license plates on cars that pass by. So I'll explain why I believe these devices are a threat to our society and why I believe we should act to prohibit these from being allowed in the county. I know there's that separation between cities' jurisdiction and the county's jurisdiction, but again, trying to get ahead of it, trying to start a conversation in our community because we're seeing these come up across the nation right now. So Flock produces many products, and here's a few of them. Falcon is a license plate reader that captures not just license plates, but also vehicle characteristics, color, make, model, decals, damage, etc. And it sends alerts to authorities on vehicles of interest. Condor is a video camera that captures continuous video surveillance that can detect people and vehicles and also provides searchable video. Raven is an audio detection device that detects gunshots and other critical sounds, estimates location, and alerts law enforcement. And Raven is often paired with the Falcon cameras. And then Freeform Search is the search tool that lets Flock users search video and LPR data using natural language queries. So it makes it very easy to pull up this data and cross a vast amount of databases. And then Nova is the investigative software that searches these databases, as I just mentioned, and combines maps, cases, and records. So combine all these together and you have the kind of nightmare that George Orwell had tried to warn us about. But since Flock is a private company, it makes it harder for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves against their data collection practices. But to continue on that point, the third-party doctrine is what says basically if you voluntarily give your information to a third party, you usually lose some constitutional privacy protection over that information. So when Flock contracts as a private business with government agencies and police department, that third-party status allows a sidestepping of the Fourth Amendment protections from unreasonable searches. So Flock sells their data by subscription to these government entities, which allows them to search without a warrant Flock's database using free-forms natural language queries. And I'll quickly mention a couple of headlines that have been in the news recently. This one is from 9 News in Colorado. He didn't commit a crime, but Flock cam alerts keep getting him pulled over. Kyle Dossman, a resident of Gilpin County, Colorado, was repeatedly pulled over every time he passed a Flock camera due to an automated alert from a Flock hot list that incorrectly linked his license plate to an active warrant. And then another one closer to home from Fargo, and a tragic story. AI error jails innocent grandmother for months in Fargo fraud case. From the article, quote, Angela Lips spent nearly 6 months in jail in Tennessee and North Dakota after being misidentified by Fargo police through AI facial recognition in a bank fraud investigation. Unable to pay her bills from jail, she lost her home, her car, and even her dog, end quote. So this last story involving the wrongful arrest and imprisonment of Angela Lips actually used a different AI-powered surveillance called Clearview AI. But my point is the same, is that these technologies are incompatible with a free society such as ours and the ideals that this country was founded upon. So, like I said, there's none in Burleigh County as of this date, but I believe it's important that we act to prohibit these AI-powered data surveillance tools from being used in Burleigh County. We don't know if that might come up in the future, but again, getting ahead of it, I think being proactive is a good start, or at least here having a discussion. I mean, my goal is watching out for the community. That's why I'm here tonight. And there's plenty more to be said about Flock specifically, that they've hired local government officials to more easily get Flock cameras established in communities, or talking about Fargo PD specifically, they've already updated their official policy as of 2025 to explicitly state that ALPR data and images, including Flock-type systems, are exempt from public disclosure under North Dakota Century Code Section 44-04-18.7. But, and one more point here, Oregon Senator Ron Wyden sent a letter to FTC Chair Andrew Ferguson, quote, to investigate Flock safety for needlessly exposing Americans to the threat of hackers and foreign spies tapping the data that they collect, end quote. And I'll wrap this up here quickly, Commissioners. I just want to close with this thought, that Flock Nova does not require probable cause or particular description to use, in contrast to what the Fourth Amendment prescribes. This technology allows one of our God-given inalienable rights to be violated, even when it is used with good intentions. And I've just presented a couple of small examples. There's more in your packet that I encourage you to review. But again, we don't have to live like that here in Burleigh County. Bismarck's still working on that. Hopefully we can have a conversation for the city. But I urge you to please think carefully about this and remember that these devices don't discriminate. They'll target anybody, military police personnel, police officers, elected officials, your family, and that's not the kind of society I want to live in. So I'll end with this quote. I need privacy not because my actions are questionable, but because your judgment and intentions are. Thank you for your time.
I don't know if I appreciate that. My intentions?
Well,
are you referring to me?
No, Commissioner, not you. It's just it's a quote referring to a person defending their
I see.
right to
Okay.
privacy.
I took that wrong.
And
I knew
people
he
that
wasn't offending us.
right.
Okay. Well,
I apologize
I'm
if-
just got a,
if you-
you know, just a hair trigger, I guess.
Right, and that's just a sentiment common.
Okay,
that
I
you
understand
commonly
now.
see.
Thanks for clarifying that. I'm just curious, did you have an idea that we had flock cameras, or we were intending to get some or something, or?
Chairman Bittner, no. So there's a website called deflock.org that you can go, and there's a map it's a crowdsourced map where users input the data to show, report where these devices are located.
I see.
And so that's where you can go. As of this date, you can see that there are the 6 here in Bismarck. And there's 3 at Lowe's, 3 at the Kirkwood Mall, and none that have been reported so far in Burleigh County. And so again,
Right, okay.
this is just a precaution of what I'm doing, is to look out, get ahead of it, because Fargo, if you look at that map, they have close to 100 of these devices. And again, I don't want to live in a dystopia such as that, and I'm sure a lot of you commissioners and people in this hearing appreciate the values that the freedoms that we enjoy, and they're slowly being eroded and under constant assault. So we have to take action and stand and reaffirm them by hopefully enacting ordinances to prevent these types of technology from creeping in.
Sure. Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Munson?
So Ben, on that Fargo in that map, is that in city limits? Are they included in the county? And then maybe a follow-up question or a second question for you. Did you assume that Burleigh County would have authority over the city of Bismarck's ordinances?
Thank you for the questions, Commissioner Munson. I believe that all the cameras in Fargo are within the city limits of Fargo and Harwood. I'm not sure entirely. I'd have to double check on that for you. And no, I did not assume that Burleigh County would have jurisdiction over Bismarck. I know those are 2 separate entities. I've also reached out to Bismarck. I just, Burleigh County is where you are as soon as you exit Bismarck, and that's where I live. That's where most of us live, I would imagine. So trying to cover both bases there.
Okay.
I got, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I certainly appreciate the concern with the Fourth Amendment and whatnot, because I served in the United States Marine Corps, and I worked in electronic intelligence when I was in the Marine Corps. And I got a bad news for you. There is no such thing as privacy. Anything, even 40 years ago when I was in the Marine Corps, we knew everything that was going on. It was electronic intelligence. You have probably in your possession right now, the single biggest problem that everybody faces is your phone. Your phone is way, way more invasive on your privacy than any traffic camera is. I guarantee you.
And it's right now.
Yeah. I mean, you've heard those stories, and everybody knows that you mention something in range of a phone or whatever, and all of a sudden it shows up on your internet stuff, on your FaceTime or whatever you're using, right? It happens to everybody. I know this happened. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this yesterday, and I mentioned a word that I know. I've never heard it before myself. I mentioned this word, and I spelled it to him, and wouldn't you know, there's like 6 of those things on my internet feed today.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that's how that works. So, personally, like I mentioned earlier, I have a bunch of cameras, and the least of my concern is anybody recording my license plate or my make and model of truck, because that's public record anyway. Anytime I leave my house, there's no expectation of privacy anymore from my perspective. So any notion, I don't mean to rain on a parade or anything, and I understand your concerns with it, but there is no privacy anymore. There is no such thing. I think the constitutional thing that you're referring to in the Fourth Amendment talks about unreasonable search and seizure. I do think that the law enforcement use of these things, although there are some, like the instances that you read, and I'm sure there's bad apples in any kind of barrel, but We all knew about the lady that was unjustly incarcerated in Fargo. As a matter of fact, we talked about it with the sheriff. That's a well-known case. However, I think the criminal prosecution and the apprehension of criminals probably outweighs what my license plate says on the front of my truck. That's just me. So I really appreciate you taking the time, because it's very well put together.
Yep.
Very well. You did great. Commissioner
I
Schwab.
have one question for you. I'm in the process of putting dash cams in my vehicles, and they are so good they can read and record a license plate. You want that banned too?
Commissioner Schwab, that's a very good question. And
I
thank
know
you.
it's a good question.
Thank you for the question. I agree there's an overwhelming sentiment that the idea of privacy is old-fashioned and we should just forget about it, and the distinction between different devices such as flock cameras, ALPRs, dash cameras, cell phones, and those are all very good points. But the difference between those and ALPRs, dash cameras and cell phones, dash cameras, let me address that one first. Dash cameras, depending on which kind you have, doesn't have internet access. You fully control the data that's being captured and the video or images that's being captured. So, and that's for your own protection from an individual law-abiding citizen who might face an accusation in a car accident where an individual claims falsely that you caused the accident. And I have a dash camera on my car. The data goes to an SD card, and I fully understand that reasoning to have that for your own protection. In the case where
his question was, do you oppose that?
I do not oppose dash cams because those aren't automated license plate readers that you can connect to an AI system and it automatically searches a vast amount of databases.
Like Ring cameras do.
Right. And for the record, I'm opposed to Ring cameras as well, but those are commonly used by private citizens who make that decision of their own, on their own to commit to using those devices in on their own private property. And again, it's a very good point to make, but what I'm talking about specifically is the flock cameras. And Commissioner or Chairman Bittner, if I may respond to a point you made earlier.
Can you keep it brief?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you said privacy is I'm not exact quoting you, but you're summarizing that privacy is kind of a thing of the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. It's gone.
So in my packet that I submitted with this request to consider this item on the agenda, I referenced United States versus Jones, a Supreme Court case from 2012. And the majority ruling of the justices was that citizens do have an expectation of privacy in their physical location. So that kind of gets to the difference. Again, we can't gloss.
Just hang on. I don't know the case. However, they were probably, if you're referring to a physical location, that's not a blanket. That might be you're entitled to privacy in your own home, probably on your own property to a certain extent. But I can tell you there's a common word that's used in the industry. It's free to air. So whatever you use and do that is free to air is capturable and is captured all the time. You can't go outside and have any reasonable expectation of privacy. That's just the facts. Because not only, I tell you, we got satellites that can count the stripes on your tie. You know, we've been doing that for many, many years.
Chairman,
And there's good reason, you know.
if I may respond to that point.
Well,
real quick. Very quick.
I'm not going to argue back and
Well,
forth here. We're not going to change the world here.
Right. But and that's the whole point of this is we can't change the world, but we can protect ourselves here in the county. Because in the Carpenter case,
How? Our goal, like, a government's goal is to protect the safety of its citizens. And if that's a tool that does that, I mean, how can I make the connection? I'm not out there doing crime, so how can I have a problem with it if it's protecting me somehow? I'm not quite following how that's an interruption of my life for me.
Chairman Bittner,
Go
I
ahead.
apologize if it was unclear, but I'm trying to make the distinction here between the government's access to this data and a private company. We can't stop these private companies from harvesting this data. I understand that, but my point is when the government contracts with these entities, they pay a subscription and they can search this data that should be protected by the Fourth Amendment without a warrant. And that's what the Fourth Amendment says. And in the Carpenter case, the judge, law enforcement must show a judge enough factual evidence to convince the judge that a crime has happened and that the place to be searched is connected to that crime. And so,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get your point. That's fair.
So
I think that's along the lines of probable cause and all that, but.
So I think because it's one of our rights in the Bill of Rights, I think it's worthy of consideration to reaffirm it here in the county, even if the rest of the world isn't going to do that. I think we shouldn't just let these rights go away without a fight.
Right.
And I thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak on that particular item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 9, State's Attorney Lawyer. We're on page 70, Investigator Salary Review, Redesignation of Legal Assistant, Restitution Specialist, Job Descriptions and Salaries. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Commissioners. So just as background, the Human Resources has been going department by department, kind of reviewing our job descriptions and what we actually do for our jobs and having us update our job descriptions. So in 2025, that's when the State's Attorney's Office went through all of our job descriptions. We updated what we do. We sent that to Human Resources. So there were a couple of things that HR found when they did that. The first one that I have in your packet with the attachments is the Legal Assistant 1 Restitution Clerk and the Legal Assistant 2 Restitution Backup. We have 2 individuals that are working on basically bookkeeping within the State's Attorney's Office, handling restitution payments that come in once they've been ordered by the court, and then we have to make sure that that restitution gets to that victim. So we did revamp those job descriptions because it does require bookkeeping and kind of accountant-type work. And so attached are the updated job descriptions for Legal Assistant Restitution Clerk and Legal Assistant 2 Restitution Backup, which I'm requesting that the Commission approve for the individuals that do those jobs. Basically, with the pay regarding those, the Legal Assistant 1 Restitution Clerk, that when HR ran that through their matrix to find out what the pay grade should be for that position right now is at a grade 4, and their recommendation is that with the duties assigned to that job, it should be a grade 5. And so with that, I'm requesting that the person, and I forgot to put that in her line too, that the person who's going to be switched over to that job also have the pay switched over to what the grade should be, which would be grade 5. The Legal Assistant 2, when they ran that through with the restitution backup, again, that was still a grade 5. That's where she's at right now. However, with the extra duties that she's doing, HR recommended that we increase her step pay because she didn't get any increase in pay with the extra duties that were imposed on her to do that restitution. So that's the first part of that. The next part of that is they ran the investigator job through the matrix that they have, and it indicated that that pay, or that position should be at a pay grade 8. Right now, it's at a pay grade 7. I did have a meeting with the sheriff and with HR today to see how that would go in line with the sheriff's department. My understanding is HR is working on the sheriff's department now, specifically their deputy, their deputy corporal, sergeant positions, to see where that would all fit in as well. However, where we're at now with what we did in 2025, those were the suggestions of HR, and so that's what I'm asking the commission for.
Okay, Commissioners, you have the information in front of you.
I would move to approve all three.
Second.
Motion and second
think-
to approve all
I
three.
think Sheriff Lieben wanted to speak about it as well.
Oh, you,
hear from him.
He's too late. You gotta sit down.
come on now.
I'll make it quick. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I did contact Commissioner Woodcock when I saw this on the agenda, make him aware I did have concerns. Like Julie said, we did have a phone meeting today, myself, HR, state's attorney, and one of our other guys that supervises. Basically, we are going to, depending what you do here tonight, which, like Julie explained, department by department, looking at these job descriptions. And like Julie explained, our investigators are a grade 7, but we've looked at for a long time, and I won't waste a lot of time tonight, but what we've looked at is years ago we had a senior deputy position. That went away many years ago. We've talked about bringing that back because currently we have like investigators, we have deputies that teach, are on SWAT and dive teams, doing a lot of extra stuff that really they don't receive any compensation for. So in our meeting today, Pam said she would work with our department. And so we're comfortable with Julie's proposal and just want to plant the seed that once Pam works with our agency, there might be some other changes coming that we're going to request. Not to put you on the spot.
Okay, thanks. I'm not going to make a joke out of that. I'm out of humor. Any other discussion on the motion?
Did we get a second?
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. County Planner Director Flanagan, got Ponderosa, Riverside Village and Subdivision, something variance, and Apple Meadows third. And I want to remind you that I'm going to hand off the chair when we get to C.
Good evening, Commissioners. This the first in your packet is a Ponderosa Riverside Village 8. This is a lot combination that the owner wanted to add a 30-foot strip within your packet. There's a lot exhibit showing a dashed line. So it basically increased the lot 1, which is on the top, from 48,000 to 58,000 square feet, and the lot on the bottom from 40,000 to 41,000 roughly. These, it was, at the public hearing, it was recommended approval 8-0. This is over in the Ponderosa estates. There are numerous lots that are less than 40,000. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of lots out there. We have turned down requests for permits because some of these lots are less than 40,000 square feet. So this one would meet the minimum square footage for Century Code septic system square footage. So.
Okay. Commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Next up, Commissioners, is KV Builders contacted Burleigh County staff regarding the construction of a 1,200 square foot accessory building that was somewhat restricted on the lot size. They're asking for 12-foot relief of the 20-foot setbacks. This is in Imperial Valley, so it's It's basically a simple accessory building request. The actual 20-foot setback is more restrictive than rural residential for side lots, so. At the public hearing, it was recommended a vote of approval by 8-0. In your packets are the site location, and there's also a location of where they want to put the building.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock?
Will you pronounce 10B for me?
Pronounce.
It never appears in any of the material you gave us, but it's on the,
What's the name of the variant,
Oh, the owner.
yeah.
oh, that's the owner's name, okay.
Uh,
Okay. I didn't.
I didn't hear it.
I
I
didn't
still
want to
didn't hear it.
mispronounce
Sarcolati.
Okay, great.
Sarcolati.
I thought I'd catch you
Thank
on
you.
one, but I didn't
We have a
apparently.
motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. I will ask for a motion to allow me to conflict of interest out on a vote on this next.
So
one.
moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman, I guess you wouldn't vote on
No,
this.
I don't need to vote on that. I'm going to hand the chair off for the purposes of the discussion on this.
Motion carried. Next item up, item 10C, Apple Meadows, 3rd Block 1, Lot 14. Mitch?
Correct. Mr. Chair, the commissioners, there was a change this morning from your packets. I handed you the new memo with additional information for the lot modifications. Instead of just one access line change, it'll be two. One for Apple Meadows 3rd Block 2, Lot 1, and Apple Meadows 3rd Block 1, Lot 14. The owners are requesting to have the 100-foot non-access line reduced to 60 foot in order to place an approach onto both properties. Access lines, non-access lines are selectively drawn on a plat to limit access to high-speed terrace volume roadway and intersections. The County Highway Department did not state any objections to the request. In the ones I handed out today, there's the site plan which shows the two lots, one on the north side, one on the south side of McIntosh Avenue. On the lot modification, it shows the non-access line of 100 feet. They want to reduce that down to 60 feet on both sides. And then there's also a copy of the resolution.
Mitch, does that affect any neighboring parcels?
No, this would only be on the lot 1 and lot 14, and it would not, it's just basically the non-access line to the corner. So that's the way it was platted back in 2002, I think.
Okay. Any questions for Mitch?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes, motion carried.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Who would sign the resolution?
I
Vice
would
Chair.
for
Okay.
the,
I'll leave a copy with the.
for
auditor.
item C, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I would make a motion to return the control back to Chairman Bittner.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Woodcox.
No.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Well, now I'm thinking about it. Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
You should have told me what you were gonna do. I'd have been right in line.
I don't, I'm just being obstinate, that's all.
You have to say yes.
We're on to other business. Commissioner Bakken mentioned the City County Commission meeting. I was thinking while we had that presentation earlier, it wouldn't hurt to maybe bring up some conversation at that about that zoning center and flock camera issue too.
I will bring that up at our meeting tomorrow then.
Okay.
So, our Bismarck Burleigh Commission meeting for tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. in this room. There's a couple items that are on the agenda. We've already addressed it. I just wanted to bring it back up. We're getting into the budget time for both the city and the county, so they want confirmation. We've already approved through consensus what we are going forward, but the ones they had concerns about was public health, which our consensus was the 25%. We were committed to that, so nothing has changed with that, correct?
Correct.
The other one was Burleigh County Emergency Management Building Lease Agreement, which, Mary, did you have anything you wanted to add on that, or not?
Julie just reviewed it tonight and
Oh, she
provided
did
some
finally?
input.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're good, Julie?
Yeah, I provided Mary the information, and I know there's a meeting tomorrow that I'll be at too.
You'll be there tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Did you get a chance to confer with the city attorney then?
I sent them an email today. I've been out, so
Okay.
I sent them an email today asking for any information they may have that's outside of
Okay.
the lease.
Okay.
So it's not actually a lease.
No, it's
Well-
not. It's an agreement, so.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I see it.
Okay,
I-
we'll
yep,
talk
that's the only
afterwards.
document I have, though.
And then the other two were city-county first floor lease agreement, continuing this, the space that we've got through 2027.
Yes.
And then the IT services agreement through 2027.
Yes.
Okay. So that was all part of the meeting for tomorrow. They wanted some assurances that that's the way we're proceeding. I just wanted to bring it up just for points of clarification and transparency.
Yep.
So we're all on the same page as we go through that meeting for tomorrow.
Okay.
And that is all that I had.
Very well. Thank you for the update on that and the clarification. Those are things that we've already talked about. So, anything else for the good of Burleigh County? We are adjourned.